Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all safe at your respective places. I welcome you all for this panel discussion on innovation on cash management and digital payments. Digital payments got into prominence post demonetization, and that is where we saw more of payments happening through the digital means, and we saw business through cards and wallets going up. However, a lot of things have got changed since then, and we have now UPI as a payment mode, which was not there then, and lot of digital other payments like pay later, cashless EMI, contactless payments have all started. So there's a thrust from the government as well to encourage digital payments. Apart from certain SOPs that the government has given in terms of payments on digital platform, they also made it mandatory to have UPI as a payment for all the retailers effective 1st February 2020, and I'm sure all the retailers would have implemented that. And now when we see that post-lockdown scenario, when the economy restarted, there were a few concerns on the payments that were made by the customers. There were fears that coronavirus spreads through currency notes. Can I give my credit card, without any fear? And do I catch the virus when I exchange the card? And with all these fears in mind, a lot of products have surfaced like contactless payments, UPI, payment through wallets have also started increasing. And in this context of digital payments gaining significance, we are having a discussion today on the innovations that are there. A lot of innovations have come in the last few years, and also I think there'll be a lot of innovations that will be coming going forward. And that is what the discussion of the panel today is. And also there's enough thrust that is going to be going digital by the government. But India is a cash economy, and we have seen even post demonetization time that once the dust settled, the cash business came back to the normal levels as to what it was earlier. So with that, without much ado, I'd like to go to the panel and hear from them on what are the innovations that are coming in the space and how do they manage their business. So to start with, I would go to the CEO in the panel, Blessing. And Blessing, I just wanted to check with you that UPI was made mandatory from 1st of February, and now also you are also in one of those space where there's a consumer spend, direct contact is also there in terms of your business where you're running a salons. And tell me that whether you're seeing an increase in UPI payments post government making it mandatory, and also you're seeing a more payment in terms of UPI or any other modes currently post lockdown.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Praise the Lord. Thanks for the opportunity, Roy and team. So when it comes to the UPI, actually, yes, I have taken the data from post pre-lockdown and post-lockdown. There is a February and your August business. So there is a hike. There is a spike from your 4% to it jumped to 8%. The contribution is almost 4%. The change is. The difference is 4%. So the lockdown has brought in 4% extra transaction for the UPI.
Okay, thank you. So I'll go to now Mr. Suresh. Suresh, we are seeing an increased trend of customers opting to pay through digital means. And there's always a fear of, whether if I transact through currency notes, would there be a spread of coronavirus? You guys in your company, you have done a research on the cash and how the transactions, whether the virus spreads through cash. So can you throw some light on that, please?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Rai, and thanks, Arun, for the question. So, well, it is a fact that there was this, unfounded fear of transmission of coronavirus through currency notes in particular. And, it was observed more in the major cities. People did fear this aspect and also preferred contactless payment platforms even for smaller daily transactions. Now, this was a good phase, as you rightly said, there has been a thrust for the digital payment. And so for many of the first-time transactions, this was a good phase, where this fear instilled them to go towards the digital payment. But actually, medical experts thereon have come, and that includes experts from WHO and many central banks, world over, who have testified to the fact that cash is still safe to use in times of corona. In fact, one of the medical experts very famously said, that someone would have to use a banknote to sneeze in for it to pose a risk to human health, in relation to the coronavirus. So I guess that was a myth which was there, and it was a real fear at the initial phase of the coronavirus. But if you ask me, actually, more than the fear of the COVID virus through currency notes, it was the restrictions, of physical proximity that led to reduced, cash on delivery mode transactions, and this was by all sides of retail operations. So, specifically, when you asked about the innovation which has been happening in the past, and of course, which will find more thrust as we go along. So when we talk of innovation in cash management and looking at it, from the retail perspective, especially the large ones, some of the pain points, and that was existing even before the COVID pandemic, was like how to reconcile and monitor cash receipts, across various collection points within and outside of a retail setup. How to prevent loss on account of cash shrinkage in the system, and of course there was investigation expenses thereof. How to prevent loss due to robberies, how to prevent deposit discrepancies and cash violations. So, these were some of the pain points, and the innovation were primarily revolving around these pain points. So there is something called a concept of a smart safe, solution today addressing some of these pain points. And it's basically a combination of a hardware deposit and a backend software solution managing it. It basically, enables efficient and secure way to manage the cash collected, or deposited in a retail setup. So instead of traditional safes, which one retailers would keep in their thing, we are looking at a more intelligent solution for cash deposit management. So you have a piece of hardware which has a cash depositor with authentication connected seamlessly to a safe and with a backend software logging and reconciling all the transactions real time, and also the ability to monitor multiple such cash points from the comfort of a centralized office or location. And such a solution could be made available for deposit of cash 24/7 by the multiple cashiers within a retail setup, or the tills which are there in the retail setup. So I think those are the kind of innovations which are happening, and I'm sure that this is going to gain more thrust as we move forward. And this is like, the coronavirus did bring a break in terms of the cash activities in the economy, but I think that is temporary. And I'm sure that, somewhere along the line, there is space both for the cash and the digital, and there is a lot more space for the digital actually right now.
Thanks, Suresh. I think what they say is that, samosa mein to aloo rahega, like that. I think cash would be part of the economy. I think that's what we had seen post demonetization. So let me go to Ranjan. Ranjan, so Suresh was mentioning about the fears that we have, and as a CFO, I ascribe to that as we have lots of insurance in terms of cash holding, cash burglary, the fear of robbery, and whether the cash is deposited the next day. We have the banks going and collecting the cash or asking the staff to go and deposit. All those fears were there in terms of cash, and one of the other fears also which is coming out with the digital payments also is a lot of the frauds and the cyber crimes that happen even in the digital space. So even the digital space is not as safe as what it is, and there are a lot of innovative frauds which are happening currently, and you have to protect yourself. So the question is that what are those fraud prevention measures that an organization should do as we go more towards the digital space, and also is there any insurance and other protection measures that we can do to ensure that the companies do not get affected big time on this?
I think it's a very, very interesting thought, because if you look at a lot of people prior to COVID, if you see, there were a lot of people who had fears of using digital mode as a payment, which to a great extent that fear has got allayed during the COVID because a lot of payments were being made digitally. So I think there is a lot of sense which has started prevailing, and a lot of education has been done by the banks. RBI has taken huge steps in terms of educating consumers, because most of the frauds happen because people do not know the risk of doing some things. I think government is doing their bit. The banks, the banking system is doing their bit. But for retailers, just to give some statistics, basis one of the research which has happened in the recent past, about 1/3 of the digital transactions have had some kind of fraud attacks or some kind of challenges which has happened to them, out of which almost about 17% of them have happened in the last 1.5 months. And that's a huge number. This is, though people have started moving a lot more towards digital, the challenge has been more towards creating more awareness among people. The biggest challenge has been in terms of the fake apps, fake websites. How does a customer know whether the website is correct or not, whether this website, if I make the prepaid order. And that's one of the reason, if you see in today's world, the COD orders are highest in India. In other parts of the world, you don't have so much of COD orders. In Europe, you don't even have COD as a payment mode. And as COD actually started existing in India more because of this, because the retailers had to build that confidence. The e-commerce players had to bring in that confidence in the consumer's mind, saying, hey, you are safe paying digitally with me, because there was no other option. And with this, what has also started evolving is the retailers have also become much more smarter in terms of creating their own security stacks to be able to prevent from these threats. But still there are challenges, because these hackers and these people who are into this fraud space, that's one part of it where the fraud is happening. They are always thinking a step ahead, which retailers have to actually keep fighting on a daily basis, because you keep fighting with new spyware, new Trojan, new malware every day, and they keep coming up with something or the other new. The second bigger problem, even in retail, in the physical retail or the offline retail, is the fraud in payments by employees themselves. And that's a huge area as well, which retailers have to actually have to manage. And that's where processes, audit systems, monitoring your, creating fraud alerts into your systems and your processes becomes very, very important and integral. And there is no end to it, because you every day keep innovating, and they will keep innovating always in terms of doing frauds. You will have to keep catching up with them.
Thanks, Ranjan. Moving to Prashant. See, like any digital need which always comes with the last minute rush. So, for example, if 1st of February you want to install UPI, by 25th or 26th of January, we start acting on it. And similar we saw in demonetization time. And even now, once the lockdown was started and we are opening, then we say that, okay, customers are now wary of paying cash. So we want to increase the digital mode, and that is what it is. So all these things come at the 11th hour and we have to execute it. So how do you manage executing these things in the 11th hour?
Basically, this is from day one. We are working on UPI payments long back, but unfortunately we have not implemented, and we have to implement it forcefully in the month of Feb. So after that, there are many things that come up, like our stores were closed down. So we have to continuously look for another options where we can sell the things. Online e-commerce is apart from the e-commerce, we also have evaluated on WhatsApp business. So we have innovated one different technique of business, that is in a WhatsApp payment. So we used to share catalogs or the products available in the store to our customers, and then ask them to pay via UPI payment or online payment, like any of your asking. So this is one technology we are evaluating right now, just because of this COVID pandemic. So there are no limits to innovations. You have to keep on innovating always.
So let me go to Mathur. Mathur, you have a huge presence in the tier 2 and tier 3 markets. So we all know that, the metros and tier 1 towns have more push on digital and everything. So what is your view on how digital payment as a solution has been implemented in tier 2 and tier 3 towns?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Yes, Arun, definitely digital is a solution, and as everybody knows, which is a common solution of is to increase the wallet payments or this e-words like Paytm. Like earlier, we are doing only with Paytm, then we also collaborate with Phone Pay, and there are other Google Pay. So there are multiple options which we have indicated with our POS devices. So definitely this is, and as I told before also, like we are also moving to e-invoices, digital invoices, to reduce the risk of this pandemic coronavirus, to get the minimum touching of on the paper, or we are start issuing the invoices on his phone itself. We have put signages that if required, we are issuing the invoices to the customers. Otherwise, we are just sending a message, because we are already sending a message that thanks for shopping to us and all these things. So we are sharing a link over the mobile where he can just on a single click he can see his invoice. So we can also reduce the touching on through this digital invoice also.
So you're seeing a higher trend of digital even in tier 2, tier 3 towns, right?
Yes, people are now more aware. And previously, as Mr. Ranjan told, that yes, people were afraid of doing the digital transactions before. But if I talk, that can be a transition that can be status of 1 or 2 years back. But now, as we are also offering some cashbacks through, if we are doing Google Pay, there can be a cashback. If you are doing through Paytm, there can be cashbacks. So we are also attracting customers to move to digital payment through some cashbacks offers or some other promo codes. If we distribute some promo codes, if they will give us promo code, then they will get that much cash. So people are now more educated to make transaction through Paytm or Phone Pay or Google Pay. So people are no more educated, and we are getting the revenue from my mode of payment is increasing on through this wallet payments.
Okay. Going to Suresh, see, we have seen that, as you said, the cash as a component has come down during this period of post-COVID where the fears are there. But do you see that the cash would come back to the previous levels, what it was when things stabilize and become normal? Or do you see that the digital as a payment mode would keep on increasing over a period of time?
I mean, it's a fact that there was a kind of a hurdle to use of cash, especially when the COVID pandemic started. But in no way actually reduced the incidence of cash presence, across the public in general. So if you actually see the pandemic, triggered a kind of if you may say, dash to cash, with many households actually hoarding banknotes. Because there was this fear that, whether you would be able to lay your hands on cash with ATMs, there was this fear that even you go into an ATM to withdraw cash, you could contact the pandemic. So, all those fear factors actually made many households to actually hoard the banknotes. And if you see the currency to GDP ratio, it has actually increased. More or less to the pre-demonetization level, and it's now at 12%. If you look at year on year, 2019 to 2020, so cash levels are more or less back, to the earlier. Even if you look at the pre-demonetization level, I'm not even talking about the pre-COVID levels, right? So, and further interesting statistics, the preference for cash, especially on a year-on-year growth, in currency held with public, is accelerating. And I'm now looking at the COVID period, you can more or less say starting from February onwards. So from February, it's 11.3% increase to 14.5% as on March, and to 21.3% by June. And so this is basically preference for cash and a year-on-year growth in currency. So these are hard statistics. This is only going to prove the fact, and which you rightly said about the analogy with samosa and aloo, that the cash is at somehow, it will come back into the system. There will be an increase in digital transactions. There is no two ways about it. I mean, we are quite nascent in the field. I think we are trying to catch up with the technology innovations in the digital payment. But then clearly cash is there to stay. And it is imperative that we look at innovating cash management methods parallelly, as we augment the digital transaction enabling. So it has to go together. And even, let me tell you that even in the normal times, developed countries like Germany, US, had a positive tilt in the number of cash transactions. So these are developed economies which already had a great enablement of technology as far as digital transactions were concerned. But Germany, for instance, is a classic example where the cash transaction still rules the roost in comparison to the digital. I am talking in terms of the number of transactions. So that is a very critical aspect and will continue to dominate Indian market in any case. I just can't, want to go back to what Ranjan mentioned, about the fraud aspect, especially in terms of in the digital payment in relation to, the employees and other things itself, involved and how to control that. And, that is the same pain points are there for the cash also. And the retailers, when we have tried to understand them, they have also come forward and said that, how do we control this? This is what is called cash shrinkage in our terminology. And so, innovation will continue in this core, both on the cash and digital. And to be very specific to your question on whether, cash is going to stay or digital is going to go forward, I think the digital has a lot to catch up with. There is, as I mentioned, they're nascent. The technologies are evolving, and I'm sure they're enabling more of digital transactions to happen. But overall, there will be an equilibrium between the cash transactions and the digital transactions in any economy. And the sheer volume of the cash transactions at the end of the day will kind of enable an innovation in both the segments, whether it be it a cash or be it digital. And retailers would need to focus on both these modes of transactions, whether it is by cash or by retail, to ensure that they are growing, and they are growing in a very, as far as cash management is concerned, in a very secure way.
Yeah, that's right, Suresh. But in case of cash, the frauds that we saw were either twofold. One is either a fraud with an employee where they did not maybe deposit the cash, or two was the note was a counterfeit note which somebody had customer had given and gone and went. But in case of digital, what we are seeing is a whole spectrum of, as Ranjan said, evolving frauds on an everyday basis. You put all those checks and balances in place, but every day we keep hearing some new innovative frauds, and even the high level people have also been caught in those frauds. So it's not that it doesn't leave anybody. It's not that only a less literate person is impacted by this fraud. But I think literacy has, no relevance to the cyber frauds which are happening today. I think it's quite high. So the innovations can happen in the digital space, but I think people are spending more time innovating in terms of how do I make more money by defrauding the customers and making money. I think that is where we are in terms of the digital space. Blessing, I just wanted to take some clue from what Ranjan had said in case of increased COD business, what is happening. And you have twofold business. One is your business, the ticket size is also slightly smaller compared to the others in the panel who are more of either the fashion retailers. And also you also have a lot of the home business side of it. So where you go and you collect money from there. So it's also tantamount similar to a COD business. So with the restrictions or the fear of the cash being there, can you just take us through the processes that you had implemented to ensure that the payments are contactless and there is no fear of the cash transaction being happening over there?
As a retailer, actually, everyone want to make it a cashless transaction. That is, we are very clear from the top to bottom. We are very clear about that, and we also ensure that. And we have put a poster saying that let us know, support the government and also let us contribute the tax to the government, demand a bill. If you don't get a bill, you will get a 10,000 rupees rewards, like that. We are promoting a lot of ways. So when it comes to like you mentioned about the ticket size, our ticket size is on an average tuning is 3,500 rupees. So if we yeah, so it's
much higher than a fashion retailer maybe.
Yeah, so maybe we have a different model also. In that, actually, the ticket size is 1,500 to 1,750. So when it comes to I can give a gist about what is happening in the salon industry, where in February it was the cash sales was 23% from the overall contribution, and the card was 60%, and the UPI was 4%, and your the Groupon, or now it is called as Nearby, it's a 1%, and in August it is from 23% to cash is 21%, and the card has come down to another 2%, 58%, and your UPI jumped from 4 to 8%. Actually, there is a 4% hike in overall contribution. So also we have a program we run this Pixel. Now it is owned by Pine Labs. So we have a prepaid, people deposit money with us. So we have a prepaid system as well. So when it comes to the COD, as we are already enabled, we have from your Google Pay to your because most of the time it is prepaid. So you make the order, make the payment, then it is delivered. But still we have activated InstaMojo and your Razorpay kind of platform to address it. It's a very minor, it's a minor contribution to our business. I mentioned that but I see a boom in Tier 2. We also have outlets in Tier 2 cities. So the cash has increased 10%. So from your 31% to it went up to 41% actually. So the cash is increasing in Tier 2 cities, and even UPI, from zero from 0.75%, the UPI transaction went up to 4.05%.
Okay. Right. Mathur, see, we have been seeing a lot of changes which you have to make in the POS system to ensure that the new digital payment mode, whatever that you're implementing, seamlessly works with the POS system. So can you just take us through the process that you follow to ensure that there is no duplication of keying on an amount, so that once it is keyed in the POS system, it is automatically taken to the digital mode and the payment is received from the customer?
Whatever, either from Paytm or from card or so. So actually, the bill gets generated on base of the transaction successful only. So duplication, we have not faced any such evil has been given, because we are receiving a notification, a confirmation from the other side, whether it is a Paytm or it is a card transaction. So I think I have not heard any such transaction like we have received duplicate one. Yes, I'm working. So I received one payment, but that was also yes. In a fraction of seconds, the machine goes and so that we have, but that is happening because on every transaction, it also giving the acknowledgement of the confirmation of the receipt.
Mathur, there is some connection issues with your line. Prashant, would you just take up this one as to see that if there is any change in the new digital payment mode that you're bringing in, how agile are we in making those changes in our POS system?
Yeah, surely. Basically, whenever we are talking about any digital payments, it is totally dependent on the internet connectivity, and for most of the presence inside the malls, and we are using the EDC machines for using all digital payments as well as cards. So I'll split these into the two parts. One is in integrity of the payment, and another part will be authorization and all of that. So whenever anybody is paying through either UPI payment or anything or a card, there is a process behind the scene, and it gets authorized by the bank, and it also gets authorized by our bank, whether it has been received or not. It might be possible that it is not getting reflected into our accounts, but it is getting by the cardholder's account. So we got that information that this transaction is successful. And after the transaction is successful, then only the signal goes to the system and we print the bill.
Okay.
Or we manually print the bill.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So Ranjan, the digital payment landscape is very dynamic, as we said, as dynamic as how it's changing in a daily basis. So what do you think are the future developments that can come in this space?
Very, very interesting developments happening in the space of digital payments. So it's not just the payments, it's about the consumer journey itself is changing. So if we look at natively, it used to be where a consumer would actually walk into the store and would buy the products and make the payments at the cash till. That itself is changing. Then came the e-commerce space where consumer used to go to the website and make the payments and or a COD, whatever it is, and then check out from there, and then he used to get the product delivered. Now things have started becoming more complex from a retailer's perspective, but much more experiential from a consumer's perspective, because now we are saying we have got into the options of omni-channel, endless aisles, where consumer may be somewhere sitting in his office at his home, and he's gone ahead and made a purchase from the website, and he doesn't want to wait for 2 days or the 3 days for the merchandise to get delivered to his home. He rather would love to go to the store, check the product, because he doesn't want to go to the store and spend time in exploring and the discovery process. He would finalize the product onto the website and say, reserve this for me at the store. I would come, try this out, and if I like it, I will make the payment so that I save time going through that entire journey of discovery. That's become the next game. What is changing faster is now there are still a lot of consumers who do not want to still go onto the websites and the e-commerce websites. How do you reach out to them? Because due to the pandemic, a lot of customers are actually, they're sitting at home or in their offices. They're afraid of going to crowded places. They're afraid of going to the malls where there is a possibility of crowd being available, where there is a risk of getting exposed to different people, multiple people. So different channels are emerging. One of the next channel which has been into the discussions for quite a long time was the social commerce itself, where it was WhatsApp, which is the most prominent channel for all of us in the country, in India at least, that we use WhatsApp, then Facebook Messenger, and whatever messengers that can come in. How could I actually reach out to the customer, take him back to the store itself, sitting at the comfort of his home, get him through the entire discovery process using bots, using human, combination of it, and then ensuring that the checkout happens there itself, where he makes the payment and the product gets delivered to him, or the products he could actually, even without entering the store, he could actually pick it up from the valet, or outside the store, he could just pick it up from there. So there are multiple innovations happening in this space. The whole customer journey itself is changing, and hence the payment technology is also actually so. I'll go back to your earlier question that you had raised. Deployment of new payment methodologies and new payment modes is no more easy. It is not just about adding it to your point of sale. It is not just about integrating it to your point of sale. You have to look at all the different journeys that the customer is doing and have to actually integrate it across the 360-degree of the customer journey, and then be able to, because you have different systems, different solution providers, service providers who are working in different areas. You have to bring them all together so that the customer, because the customer, you're not restricting the customer in one place. He could walk up to a store, still use the app in the store because he wants to make a contactless discovery of the product, contactless payments. There, he could use his smartphone itself to be able to discover the product, make the payment there itself, and pick up the product and walk out of the store, rather than touching anything, because the pandemic has created a lot of lot of awareness in terms of touching things and getting infected. So I think there's a huge change which is happening in this, and digital payment is the best way to actually start capturing 360-degree, because obviously cash is there for the offline stores for sure. But in case of the other modes, other channels through which the customer is communicating, cash becomes slightly difficult.
So I think just taking a cue from whatever that Ranjan just said, that it's not going to be only a few digital payment channels, because customer experience is what you're gunning for, and it's going to be multiple channels in which the payments are going to happen. With that, what is the question coming up as a CFO for me is that there's going to be a whole lot of reconciliations that I have to do, because earlier it was only a card and a cash, that's it. So to reconcile the next day, money is deposited, issues resolved, take the batch settlement, the issue is resolved. But today, with a plethora of payment modes coming in, there's also going to be a huge issue of reconciliation, because it's not going to be restricted 3-4 payment channels that we're going to have. We're going to have multiple payment channels. So what is that, the innovation that can come in case of the digital payments and having a reconciliation of that? Anybody can go for it.
Please go ahead.
No, Blessing, go ahead.
Yeah, so to answering to the how we can avoid the multiple entry of the amount, so from POS to your payment terminal. So there's an integration process is there, and I think actually there are only 3 major players in this country, and I think Yes Bank is one of the biggest IP holder, and the bank, the problem with the as a retailer we face is that we have to have a POS and we should have a banker, and we need the integration between there's a for example, we have Pine Labs, so we need integration between POS, the Pine Labs, and it has to go to the bank. So I think the bank is going to take as the payment gateways have taken a further step, like sending your invoices. I think bank will take the advanced step. I think that is going to be the future. So the POS, the software people, and the payment solution providers, actually you have to be very careful, because the bank is very aggressively, Yes Bank especially, is very aggressively getting into this space.
Let me add to that. Arun. So one of the important feature is the payment itself is becoming complex because of multiple modes of payment that a consumer can make in the same invoice. So imagine in the same invoice, he could make a credit card payment, he could make a coupon, he could redeem a coupon there, he could redeem his loyalty points there, he could make a balance cash payment. A reconciliation is obviously becoming complex as well. But what is happening in the best part for digital is there are traces of what is happening throughout your value chain through multiple channels. And if it is captured in some system, obviously you have a mechanism to do a reconciliation, because then you can get the trail, because there is nothing manual. You have trails all across, whether you leave it onto the website, you leave it onto social commerce, you leave it onto your endless aisle apps or your omni-channel apps, or you leave it onto the point of sale. As long as it is digitized, then the reconciliation becomes easy, because then it is about systems who can actually start reconciling those. Then you can bring in whole bunch of ways to reconcile that by putting in system processes, by integrations, and by doing different things, or bringing in bots to do the reconciliation as well, because bots have also become very, very smarter in terms of all reconciliation processes.
That's right. So I think, that's what I think, adding to what Blessing said and what Ranjan said, it's more of the aggregators who are going to now come in and play a role. The aggregators are going to say that, okay, be what may be the payment mode, let me be all routed through my own device, so that I would be giving you an MIS on everything, so that everything comes from you except for cash. All other payments are directly taken in my device. And as you rightly said, I think we'll have to get into an RPA and use the bots to use this reconciliation, because at the end of the day, it's the customer convenience is just more important than seeing that I'm not good. Because if somebody is going to be very restrictive and say, sorry, I'm not going to add a payment mode, what you're doing is you're losing business. So that's it. So I don't think we are getting into anything. Okay. So there's one question which has come from the audience. Maybe I can answer that, but I'll just leave it to the panel to see that why merchant charges charge on various type of payments, though RBI has banned from January 2019. I think as a finance guy, I can get into this. RBI is not banned. RBI has given some charges guidelines for the debit cards, more of where it's less than 2,000, they should not be charging anything. More than 2,000, whatever is the charge that they should charge is given by RBI. And for credit cards, it's open. It is between the bank and the consumer. That's how we go about on this. Okay. Taking to the cash component of it, because there are a lot of innovations on the cash as well. And as we said that cash is going to continue and cash is going to stay for some more time. Suresh, you touched upon something called Cash Safe. Can you explain what is that and how that would help us in reducing the frauds?
Yeah, I mean, first is that, taking your earlier question point in terms of the reconciliation, which is you talk more in terms of the digital transactions, but that's also a major issue with the cash deposits. And some of the innovations which are happening is more in terms of ensuring that when the cash is deposited, the system is authenticating it. So that is one of the major aspects. At that point itself, whether it is a counterfeit or a genuine note. Secondly, it is registering the serial number of these currency notes. And so it produces a log, it's tracking the serial number of the currency note which has been deposited by a particular cashier. And so I think that is where the digital imprint is created for the deposits. And thereon, the reconciliation becomes easy because everything is being captured in a database. So it is logging the deposit transacts depositor wise. It knows exactly which denomination, which serial number of currency note was deposited by a particular depositor. And at the end of the day, it goes into a cloud and you can actually reconcile. So if you have multiple cash points like that, depositors across by a particular retailer, he could actually network it, monitor it, and real time he can see what is the the cash which is coming in and who is putting in how much, whether it is correct or not. So all this can happen. So I think in some ways, the innovation in terms of the cash deposit and ensuring that the reconciliation is done fast and reliably is also something which is happening in the cash arena and helping the retailers to cut down these pain points, if I may say so, as far as cash deposits are concerned in the retail arena.
Okay. So Prashant, maybe you can take this question. See, what we are also seeing is more and more digital payments coming in, and obviously, if you see in a retailer, the cash desk has got a very finite space, and it also says that how many machines that I keep, where to service and get the payments out. So what is that? Again, there should be some digital innovation over there to ensure that these payments are less. Because if you see some of where the retailers, there are at least 5 QR codes which are kept, saying that there are 5 digital payments that I've got. You can scan whatever it is and make the payment. So what is that innovation that you see, or anybody can go it if it's not Prashant, that you see that might come in that space?
Basically, there are many things. I will take it in otherwise. There are many ways to innovate these things. To increase the traceability, we can either initiate the customer to go towards digitally more and a secure way, and always the security of cash by restricting payment deposit by the next immediate working day by bank, we can minimize the risk of handling cash at the store. And in between, I lost the question because due to some network issue. Can you just repeat it?
Yeah. My question was that, we have multiple digital payment modes that we are collecting now. So if you go to any cash desk of any store, you will see that at least 4 or 5 QR codes of various right from UPI to various other, wallets and everything is kept at the cash counter. If I'm going to increase some more payment modes, it was like at earlier times when the stores used to have lots of EDC machines, because multiple banks EDC machine I used to operate. So it's now getting into that mode. So what is the innovation that you see might come where this aggregation of all the wallets and UPIs and everything can be centralized?
This one innovation already available for
already,
all.
yes.
There is a Bheem UPI.
Yes.
And Bheem UPI having almost all the things add together. Apart from Bheem UPI, there are many banks also offering the same thing within their EDC machine itself. Okay. So that it is getting clubbed in one single devices. So customer need not have to scan it in another different QR codes. It is already available in the one either template or on a EDC machine. So that way it is already innovated and it is available. And at the later stages or by the innovation goes on, it will definitely come up with some another solutions, some more compact solutions.
Okay. Mathur, you were saying something.
Yes. As I what Mr. Prashant said, there's already a common API is available. Common that QR code is available like Bheem UPI. So we can scan all Google or Paytm or whatever it is. We can scan through single. And there's one more option which is a Samsung is giving, like tap to pay. Like there's a risk of touching in card also. So like there are some EDC machines which you can just, we don't need to take the cards, scan the cards over there. You can just save your card numbers in your mobile itself, and you can just tap that mobile on the EDC machines, and that payment can be done. So the touching risk of the credit cards can also be removed by just tapping your mobile on the EDC machines. So that is also a pure
that's by Samsung Pay, or we can say an iPhone Pay wallet.
Yes. Yes. I'm also using that personally.
So there's one question which has come from the audience. Does it make sense to invest in cash management systems when people are clearly moving towards digital payments? Suresh, would like to go for it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very valid question, I guess, but as I said earlier, cash is pretty much, growing. If you forget about the COVID period, year on year, there is a growth of almost 10% in the cash circulation within the country and the general public. We are close to 115 billion pieces of banknotes in the public domain, and that is second only to China. So, with that humongous volume of cash, which is there in the public domain, it is going to be, cash is not going to go away. It is still going to be there. The question is how much of the digital payment transactions will make its space in this payment arena. And I think that is clearly evolving. And there is going to be a lot more space for the digital as we go along. But cash is going to remain. I just wanted to take one question, what Prashant mentioned about, getting the credit the next day in terms of the cash. And precisely the innovation happening in the cash management is towards that, to ensure that the retails would get their money recognition and the credit as fast as possible. And the Smart Safe is one of the solutions which enables that, where assuming a large retail, with several cashiers who would actually work in shifts and who would probably can come to this cash deposit machine and deposit the cash, as their shift is over, and they get a receipt. And this also ensures that there is no pilferage. It's in a safe. There is a safe with the deposit machine, so it is very safe there. And as I said, a backend solution is already collecting and reconciling all the cash which is coming in and enabling that instant credit, to their account without delay. So that was a very important point Prashant was just raising, as he talked about the cash aspect of it. But coming back to the question you asked, cash will remain. As I said, it will attain an equilibrium probably as we go along. between the cash and the digital, there are several advantages of cash over the digital, and I'm clearly not trying to say we operate. I mean, we have seen that the digital space is also evolving, but they have to do the catch up. And as I mentioned, some of the examples of developed economies, the cash transactions do not die. I mean, they still remain at a very healthy level, and the volumes are so high that you would still need to look at innovations in relation to the cash management. So
let me also jump in to support Mr. Suresh, and because cash is going to be there, because there's ground realities there. One is the UPI is eating the credit card and debit card market share, and two, why there is a cash transaction is because to avoid the charges, the transaction charges, and there is a ground reality to avoid the tax. From most of the unorganized sector or people prefer cash. So there's a cash transaction happens due to two reasons. One is to avoid the transaction charges for the merchant, and two is to avoid the taxation part, because it is we are 100%, we are white, and we pay our tax on time. We are you can say 100% we are white, but the ground reality is people prefer cash because to avoid tax.
Suresh, just a follow-up question on that from the audience is that whether this cash management solutions, whatever we have, is it only for big retailers who have more than 100 stores or so, or even small retailers, can they enjoy this cash management solution that you just explained?
Yes, it could happen. I mean, when you look at a big retailer, he would invest in the solution himself. When you talk about smaller retailers, it's like today you have ATMs which were owned by the bank, and now you have white ATMs, which is shared by the banks. And you could have a similar situation where there are these solutions, which is shared by the retailers, and they can take the benefit of that. So that is the way you could optimize the cost part of it. I understand where it comes from. So that's probably the way it will evolve.
So you may keep it in more of a public space in a secured environment, and anybody can come and access and use it.
Absolutely.
Something similar to how I use an ATM.
Yes, yes. We have not yet reached that level. As I said, probably the initial adoption of this technology would be more from the larger retailers, because as they see that there is a problem in-house for them, and in terms of how to efficiently manage cash and in a secure way. So I guess that's where it will start. It's already started, and it will go forward. I'm sure it will evolve in the direction of the way the ATMs and recyclers have also evolved.
So there's another question from the audience for the tech people in the panel. So what are the guiding principles that one needs to follow while choosing which technology to invest?
Very difficult one, actually, because it all depends upon what is the technology that you are trying to, in what space is that technology. So, and what kind of a value that you deliver. And is it a very, very innovative technology? So if you are evaluating something in the space of an AI machine learning, there is a lot of experimentation which is going to happen. You would really not know what are the areas where you could have use cases are emerging. The new thoughts, new ideas are coming in. But if it is a mature technology like a point of sale, if you are evaluating, it is still simpler. But today's point of sale systems are no more simpler as it used to be, because it is no more dumb a POS machine where you just do your billing. It also acts as a CRM. It acts as an omni-channel solution. It brings together the commerce, the social, and the e-commerce piece together and binds it together. So it all depends upon what kind of solutions you are looking at and how far ahead are you thinking about. So different technologies for different purposes will have different evaluation criteria. And it also depends upon your need as an organization. So every organization will have their own strengths and weaknesses, and they will always be looking forward to solving a set of problems, why they need a technology. A technology is not needed just by itself. It is needed to solve a problem. what kind of problems are you trying to solve today, and what kind of problems you're trying to solve in the future, maybe 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line. Looking at technology more than 3 to 4 years down the line is very, very difficult today.
I agree. I think this was precisely the point which was discussed in the previous panel as well, as to say that you have to have the technology, but you can't run behind every technology.
Yeah.
So you'll have to select and choose what technology to take and then run behind it and implement it fully. Okay. So there's one more question which is there is aggregators providing acceptance of multiple payment options. I think Prashant alluded to the fact that, in the aggregator machine itself that we have now the dynamic QR codes as well, so that you don't need to have those QR codes sitting at this one. So I think maybe you can just touch upon, what are those facilities that are available in those aggregators machines. It's no longer, it's only card collection. I think there are whole lot of other things apart from the card collection. So maybe Prashant, you can just explain that.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, there are aggregators available. Like Pine Labs is providing many solutions. Like many banks are also coming up with the operating as an aggregator nowadays. So there are in future technology. Putting on a multiple things that are, whereas in aggregating even a same device and you can solve. I think that is the right point. Because my internet connection.
Prashant, we are not able to hear you properly. There seems to be some lag in your connection. Maybe somebody else can take this.
We are using Pine Labs, so actually I can comment on that. So we can accept any card, and we can accept any QR. So you have any Paytm or anything can be integrated in that, and actually even you can able to give receipt for the transaction.
Okay, so there are multiple aggregators which are there in the market. All these aggregators, I think, provide for all the dynamic QR codes as well in the aggregator machine. So it's no longer now having multiple machines. One machine, it's like one size fits for all type. That machine takes care of all your problems in terms of the payment other than cash. I think cash is what you count and you put it in your till.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So I think let me go back to the fears of digital and the frauds which are associated with digital and everything. My question is that how is the market that has now come up? So again, can I secure myself in case of digital frauds, or if I get across a digital fraud, what is that as a retailer that I'm supposed to do?
Should I do you?
Yeah, Ranjan, go ahead. Yeah.
So there are many things that the government and the banking system have created multiple modes where people and retailers can actually secure themselves from digital frauds. One of the biggest way from a consumer's perspective is that most of these cards and most of these banks have actually secured their digital payments, and they've created a model where if you go back to them and report a fraud within a stipulated timeline, you can be secured, your transaction is secured, your money is secured. Similarly, retailers have also started getting such benefits in terms of different banking systems or different aggregators who could actually, who are playing a large role in terms of securing that. The only thing is how quickly can you trace that fraud, because this also comes with a rider in terms of the time in which you report back that fraud. So it is about creating those early alert systems to be able to detect that fraud. From a consumer's perspective, it is still simpler because he's done a couple of transactions during the day and he's got those messages basis to which he can actually clarify or verify whether it is a fraud transaction or is it a right transaction. From a retailer's perspective, with so many stores, with so many different channels, it really becomes complex at times to be able to detect those frauds, and hence the fraud detection solutions sitting on top of the overall payment modes across different channels becomes much more critical, and that's has a huge role to actually play in that, because you're no more just dealing with cash or a credit card or a debit card. The payment modes itself have actually diversified and they've become really huge.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. So it's not only more of your reconciliations, which you do maybe at a later point of time and then come out, and by the time you do, the damage is done.
Yeah.
So rather you put controls within your own payment modes so that the frauds are detected and an alarm is at least raised. And meanwhile, obviously, you have to keep your reconciliation also on to ensure that these things, because in the case of a credit card, obviously the bank writes to you and says that I'm doing a chargeback. But I don't know, in case of digital payment, the payment would not come to you only because they say that it's a fraud transaction and then they'll hold back the payment. And we don't realize that if you don't reconcile on a regular basis and if you don't put policies and all the control mechanisms, I think you may end up losing that money out. So I think the more sophistication in terms of the digital payments, I think the more precautions as well we'd have to take to ensure that we don't get into any issues on this.
True.
Right. So the one last question from my side is that we have lots of payment modes, cash, all those things which are there in the system. But at the end of the day, it's a consumer who has to come in and shop. So one is that as a make a easier option to the consumer. What is that a payment mode, like there's something called a contactless payment that some people have started, so that to make that much easier, like I would send a link to you and then you make a payment. At the store only, I hear that, they even fill up a link as how they shop from a e-commerce website and then they make a payment. So can somebody just take us through as to what is that? I think Blessing, maybe you have implemented that in a contactless payment. Can you just take us through as to how that works?
Yeah, mostly it is, we have our prepaid membership program. Mostly it is, we already taken the money first. Then actually, when it comes to the contactless payment, we have the terminal which is contactless terminal POS is there, and we have the QR code. And we are also, if we are delivering any product to the customer, please a new order, we can trigger a link and we can get them paid. But most of the time it is prepaid, and if it's in VIP, we have to send them a link and we have to get the payment. So we have a solution for that.
So thank you, panelists, for the good discussion that we had on the innovation in digital payments and cash management. I think I had a good exposure of what is coming out now and what are the precautions that, as a finance guy, that I should take in case of this. And thank you all, Blessing, Suresh, Prashant, Ranjan, and Mathur for a good discussion. I think to all the audience, I think you have to stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you so much.